The following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Cary Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight. I now call this meeting to order. All board members, staff, and applicants are participating in Cary's council chambers. Our board clerk, Julie Mitchell, will now call roll for this evening.
Andy Coe,
Present.
Jeff Moncrief,
Present.
Mary Jo Hill,
Present.
Don Hamilton,
Present.
Stephen Crutchfield,
Present.
Jessica Pearson,
Present.
Mike Roselli,
Present.
John Sorrell,
Present.
and Jessica McClure is absent currently.
Thank you. Just in our opening general remarks, I'd like to remind everyone that the Cary Community Plan will continue to be the guiding document for this board. Our role is to function as citizen advisors to the town council, who will make the final decision on all rezoning activity. Your citizen opinions based on the Cary Community Plan document are very important in advising our town leaders. While this is a public hearing, please be aware, while this is a public meeting, please be aware it is not a public hearing. There is no opportunity for the public to speak during this meeting. If you have comments about any of these cases, we encourage you to reach out to the staff case manager or the applicant by email or phone. You may reach out to our board members through email. You may also contact council directly through email or during the public speaks out portion of any of the regularly scheduled town council meetings. During this meeting, I will call on each board member individually to confirm their vote. All motions, seconds, and votes will be verbally obtained. These meetings may be streamed live on the Town of Cary website and on YouTube, and are available online if you would like to view our past meetings. The first item on the agenda tonight is the adoption of the agenda. Would someone please make a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Thank you, Don. Ken,
Second.
Second, thank you, Jeff. Now call for a vote on adoption of the agenda. Andy?
Approve. Approve.
Approve.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from our March 28th meeting. Does anyone have any changes, or would someone like to make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from March 28th?
I move we adopt the meeting minutes from the March meeting.
Thank you.
I'll
Second? Who said that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now call roll. Start down with John.
Aye. Aye.
Excuse me, aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, our first case tonight is 21 REZ 15 109 Appaloosa Trail. Planning Manager Katie Dry will share the staff's presentation. Following the presentation, the applicant will share their remarks. All board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff and of the applicant. You may now proceed.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Board. This is a request to rezone 7.02 acres at the intersection of Appaloosa Trail and New Hope Church Road. The site is located within Chatham County. It's identified as Lot 1 of the Woods of Chatham neighborhood. The lot currently includes several outbuildings, including several structures, including a barn. It's not developed, however, with any residential dwellings at this point. The site is immediately adjacent to the American Tobacco Trail, and it has access from Appaloosa Trail, which is a private drive. New Hope Church Road is designated as a 2-lane undivided thoroughfare, and the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan proposes a street-side trail along the road frontage. Since this is a request to allow development of a single residential dwelling, road improvements, including a street-side trail, would not be constructed with the site. The American Tobacco Trail is depicted on this slide with a green line, and the New Hope Church Trailhead Park and the New Hope Disc Golf Course are located just to the east. According to Cary's GIS maps, the site is not impacted by any stream buffers. And there are presently no overhead utility lines along the site's frontage on New Hope Church Road. The current zoning is Chatham County R1, and the applicant is proposing to rezone to R40 conditional use. The zoning conditions associated with the site are a total of 3, and these include conditions associated with the annexation. So they are proposing to build at most 1 detached dwelling with accessory uses, proposing that any dwelling will front New Hope Church Road with a maximum setback of 200 feet from New Hope Church Road, and proposing that any driveway will be located on New Hope Church Road within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant. To illustrate what the zoning conditions would look like, this red line that's located here shows where approximately 200 feet is located from the right-of-way for New Hope Church Road. With the zoning condition, any dwelling that is built on the site will front New Hope Church Road and will be located within 200 feet of the right-of-way, as shown with the red line here. The yellow arrow represents where 1,000 feet is from the closest fire hydrant, which this means this is the furthest point where any driveway can be located on the site. Cary staff facilitated a neighborhood meeting remotely on December 1st. 5 attendees participated. There were questions about involuntary annexation plans from Cary, and Cary staff clarified that Cary annexation would only occur if requested by a property owner. There was also a question about whether Cary's LDO would supersede the HOA covenants. And Cary staff explained that HOA regulations go above and beyond Cary's LDO, so any regulations that are currently in place by the HOA would still be in place. Since then, we have received 3 phone calls and emails regarding the public hearing, and none since the public hearing took place. At the public hearing, which was on March 24th, there were 3 written public hearing comments, one with questions about Cary's R40 zoning district, and two commenters shared support for the case. There were questions from council about whether the site would be required to install pedestrian access to the American Tobacco Trail, and staff noted that the site would not be required to have a development plan since they're proposing to build just 1 detached dwelling. There was also a question about addressing the site, and would the site maintain its Appaloosa Trail address or receive a New Hope Church Road address. And staff noted that since the driveway and the dwelling will both front New Hope Church Road, it's very likely that the address that's assigned will become a New Hope Church Road address. The site is located, as I mentioned, within Chatham County, so the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan applies, and that's an appendix to the Imagine Cary Community Plan. We also note that other policies from the Live, Shape, and Serve chapters apply to this site. First, we'll look at the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan. The designation is for very low density residential, which recommends a maximum density of 1 dwelling per acre. And the applicant's proposing a zoning condition to limit the use to one detached dwelling and accessory uses on a 7-acre parcel. So this request is consistent with the guidance from the Joint Land Use Plan. Looking at the Live chapter, we note that the site will provide additional housing on a larger lot in a residential area. When we look at the Shape chapter, the site is within a suburban neighborhood designation, and the R40 CU zoning district is an appropriate zoning district within that designation. And looking at the Serve chapter, the site is proposing one dwelling on 7 acres of property. Staff's preliminary finding is that the rezoning is consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. We find that it supports policies from the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan and policies from the Live, Shape, and Serve chapters. We also note that the proposed zoning would allow one detached dwelling, thus meeting the density and land use policies from the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan. And the proposed zoning will ensure open space, which furthers policies from the Serve chapter. So this concludes staff's presentation. The applicant, who is the property owner, Mark Hogan, is here to speak to the request. Following that, I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation, Katie. My wife and I and our 2 toddlers are looking to build our home on this property, and due to poor soil conditions, are seeking the ability to connect to town sewer and water. The proposed zoning conditions are intended to be equivalent to the existing Chatham County zoning, while also meeting the town's standards for services such as fire. Thanks for your time tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
So this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. So now is the time for the board to ask any questions of staff or the applicant, and we'll start with you, John.
No questions, thank you.
Has the applicant received confirmation from the town of Cary that sewer will gravity from the parcel?
Yes, the applicant has had many meetings with the town utilities department to discuss implications for connecting to water and sewer services.
Perfect, thank you.
I was just wondering if you could explain, under use, it says one detached dwelling and accessory uses. What are accessory uses in this condition?
Yeah, so as with most single-family dwellings, they are allowed to have certain accessory uses that could include something like an accessory dwelling unit. It could also include the ability to have chickens, bees, things like that. So these would be the accessory uses that would be carried over for any detached dwelling that would be allowed within Cary.
And I have another question. So the, I can't remember the name of the drawing, but it had to do with the floodplain. So the 7-acre parcel doesn't have any part of it in the floodplain.
Not according to our GIS maps, and this site is proposing just to build one detached dwelling, so there wouldn't be a development plan associated with it like we would have with other, larger developments.
Yeah.
So we won't get official surveys to determine that, but according to our maps, it doesn't appear that there's any floodplain on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Andy?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions here either.
I have no questions either.
None.
I have a general question, it's more of education. For an accessory use, if someone wanted to put some of the items that you mentioned, do you have to come back to and this is for anyone, do you have to come back to the town? Is it done through a building permit? How do you know that?
Yeah, absolutely. A permit is required. So similar to primary uses, we have a table of permitted uses for accessory uses in our ordinance. So we issue accessory use permits, and that could be for anything such as a accessory dwelling unit, like a granny flat in your backyard, to getting a permit to have chickens or bees. Of course, all the HOA regulations need to be met as well. So there's some neighborhoods in Cary that don't allow certain types of those uses, and certain criteria also have to be met.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Based on that, would someone like to make a motion on 21 REZ 15-109 Appaloosa Trail?
Sure. I move that the board find case number 21 REZ 15 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report, presentation, and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. Someone like to second?
Second.
Andy? Okay. Having a motion and a second, we can open up just discussion on the motion, and since you made it, you go first, please.
Sure. I didn't see anything that was inconsistent with our comprehensive plan, and certainly would like to welcome parcels that want to annex into the town of Cary to join the town of Cary. So,
Thank you. Andy, comments?
Yeah, I mean, very straightforward. I think as it was laid out, the live, shape, and serve chapters of the Cary Community Plan, the 2040 plan, are served well, and it seems very straightforward, and I support the.
Okay, well, since we're over there, we'll just continue
Yeah,
coming up this way.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. We're getting, a good lower density project here with some, preservation of tree canopy, and it's consistent with our plan. So looks like it's going to be a great place to raise a family.
I agree with the comments that have been made.
Really nothing to add. I'm excited for the applicant.
John?
No extra comments.
Okay, anything else?
No comments from me. I agree with my colleagues on the board.
Awesome, and I also agree and have no further comments. Having said that, it's time to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion as presented, we'll go down, starting John.
Aye.
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 And I also vote in aye, so 21 RZ, whoops, which one was on?
15.
21 RZ 15 Appaloosa Trail is approved unanimous. The next case on the agenda is 21 RZ 19 Estes Residential. Our principal planner, Anna Redling, will share the staff's presentation. Following the presentation, the applicant will share their remarks, and all board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and the applicant. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. This request is to rezone 6 acres at 7824 Emery Gale Lane in the Green Level area of Western Cary. The site is located adjacent to the 32.92-acre Mills Tract rezoned to R12CU this past October with case 21 REZ 07. If this case is approved, the applicant would like to combine this 6-acre tract into one community with the adjacent 32.92 acres. The property is in Cary's ETJ and is currently zoned R40. The applicant requests R12 conditional use zoning, which requires a minimum lot size of 12,000 square feet with the following conditions. Uses shall be limited to a maximum of 15 detached dwellings, neighborhood recreation, and associated accessory uses. Lot area calculations will be based on the actual lot size and will not include any riparian buffer area. There shall be an average 30-foot wide type B buffer along the private Emery Gale Lane frontage. And all lots shall have access to Mills Road or to Green Level Church Road via a network of public streets. So the condition limiting the site to 15 lots on 6 acres equates to a gross density of 2.5 units per acre. The adjacent Mills property rezoning that I mentioned a moment ago, and we're talking about here, had a maximum of 55 lots on 32.92 acres for a gross density of 1.67 units per acre. If these two sites are combined, there will be a maximum of 70 lots on 38.92 acres, with a final overall neighborhood density of 1.8 units per acre. The applicant has verbally indicated that access to the proposed 15 detached residential dwelling units on the 6 acres that you're looking at tonight would be provided through the adjacent Mills property via 2 access points on Mills Road. So if this site is combined with this, then Mills Road would provide the access to the entire community. Even if the applicant had included the subject property with the previous case last fall, it would not have met the threshold for requiring a traffic study. Cary's GIS maps indicate a potential need for a stream buffer along the southeast corner of the site, and field determination will be required at the time of development plan review. Overhead utility lines connect to the service pole just inside the site's 500-foot Emery Gale Lane frontage. Per the LDO, utility lines are required to be installed underground except in certain situations. Whether Duke Energy would support installing such a short segment below ground will need to be evaluated during the development plan review. The subject site's current access, as we said, is Emery Gale Lane, a private road created in 1983 as part of a subdivision that was approved by Wake County. And while there are no current or planned transit services along Green Level Church Road, it is identified as a future transit corridor in the Cary Community Plan. Oops. There are no proposed greenway corridors within this site. However, the Flat Branch Greenway Trail corridor extends along the western boundary of the adjacent site. Staff facilitated a virtual neighborhood meeting on January 12th. 6 citizens attended. 2 owners along Emery Gale Lane expressed a desire to see this private road improved to public road standards and to serve as an access to the new development. A property owner from the adjacent Woodland subdivision expressed concern about potential traffic backups on Mills Road if it will be the only access into the development. Following the meeting, 3 citizens contacted staff with process questions and further questions about access to the site. A public hearing was held at the March 24th Town Council meeting. An owner of property along Emery Gale Lane submitted written comments supporting the rezoning contingent on the developer's commitment per a private agreement to help pave and maintain Emery Gale Lane. Another citizen, a property owner in the adjacent Woodlands subdivision, spoke in person at the meeting and expressed concern about future traffic backups on Mills Road. Following the public hearing, Town Council members asked for clarifications on access and the LDO's cross-connectivity requirements. Staff has analyzed the request against policies of the Imagine Cary Community Plan and finds policies in the Live, Engage, Shape, and Serve chapters are supported. The applicant is proposing compatible residential infill that meets Live policies. In support of Shape, Engage, and Serve policies, the applicant is proposing buffering along its Emery Gale Lane frontage to screen new development from view and to preserve some existing tree canopy. Building lots will be platted outside of any riparian buffer. And the site is located within the Green Level Special Planning Area, which also provides specific recommendations. This map shows the Special Planning Area boundary in red, and the location of the subject site is depicted by the red star located on the east side of the Flat Branch stream. In this area east of the Flat Branch, the plan envisions mostly detached housing with aggregate density around 3 dwelling units per acre. The plan also recommends shielding new development from view with natural topography and vegetation and using designs to complement the historic character of Green Level. In keeping with those goals, for this site, the applicant proposes a density of 2.5 units per acre and R12 lot sizes that don't rely on riparian buffer area. If new plantings are needed to supplement the 30-foot wide buffer along Emery Gale Lane, they will be native species planted to mimic a natural forest edge. Staff's preliminary finding is that this request is consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan because the zoning and the conditions offered support several plan policies and appear to be consistent with the Green Level Special Planning Area vision. And this concludes my presentation, and following the applicant's comments, I'm available to answer questions. Jason Barron, the applicant's representative, is here to speak on the applicant's behalf.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group. I'm going to keep my comments fairly brief on this one, although I thought it was a low-density residential rezoning until I saw the case before us, which was really low-density residential. But kidding aside, excited to be able to bring this one forward. This is a site that candidly my client had it under contract when they first had the Mills property under contract. We would have brought everything together. We agree with the staff's finding associated with this proposal being consistent with the Cary Community Plan. And just in terms of kind of where things are in the process, because there were a lot of questions related to access, a development plan has been submitted to the town for the mill site. And so we haven't just verbally committed to having 2 access points onto Mills Road. The development plan that has been submitted for that property shows 2 access points onto Mills Road and also includes a stub to this site. So the exclusive access for folks who will be ultimately buying homes on this site will be through Mills Road. And we've reached an agreement, my client has reached an agreement with the owners of property that currently use Emery Gale Lane for access. That is a private drive, and so we were sensitive from the get-go on this site to make sure that they were aware that we weren't planning on using their private drive for Town of Cary traffic. So just wanted to provide a little bit more color commentary to provide a bit better context associated with how this fits in with what else is going on. With that, happy to answer any questions, and we would respectfully request you all's finding of consistency. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Now is the time for the board to ask any questions of the applicant and/or the staff. And John, go first if you would.
I have one question for staff. I understand and appreciate the condition regarding interim access and not wanting to send public traffic through the private road. That makes great sense. My question is more about the long-term and connectivity and whether the town connectivity rules would eventually require a connection through there, were those parcels to ever redevelop, and what that might look like in the long term.
Yes, the town's connectivity requirements will require connectivity in the vicinity of Emery Gale Lane to the south.
So there will be a stub.
Yes.
In our preliminary plans, we haven't submitted a development plan for this parcel because we need to get zoned first, but the plans contemplate a stub to the south adjacent to Emery Gale, such that when those adjacent parcels do redevelop, there will be a vehicular opportunity to provide multiple points of access.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Is that it? Go ahead.
No questions.
This question is for Ms. Redling. You mentioned in your presentation that this application doesn't require a traffic study. Can you remind me of the requirements for a traffic study?
There need to be 99 or greater or 100 and greater peak hour trips generated. And this, even with combined with the other acreage, would not trigger that.
And I can elaborate that on,
Yes.
although every time I talk about traffic, I know Priyatham cringes because I'm not a traffic engineer. As I understand it, for a single-family residential development, roughly in the 93 to 95 homes ballpark would trigger that need for a TAR per the town standard. And so when you combine our sites, we're still at 70, so we're still, probably 25% below the town's threshold, even when you combine both sites.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Don?
I don't have any questions.
Mary Jo?
I don't have any questions.
Just about the access with Emery Gale, is that having not driven by the site, I mean, it looks pretty remote and it kind of ends into nowhere. I mean, is there a way that it could be negotiated? I mean, why is that not an option? I guess they just aren't, it's not for sale, or it seems like it would be nice to have that access.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the simple answer is it's a private street and goes through other people's property, so we don't have control on it.
Yep.
That stretch of Emery Gale that you can see on the site actually goes through the church's property, the historic church, so it's really kind of in their hands. There have been conversations with the folks who are currently using that for access. There's essentially 2 properties back there that use Emery Gale Lane for access out to Green Level Church. There's been discussions about the possibility of converting that to a public street, but that's not something that we anticipate to be part of this development.
I got you. It's really for the long run, which John hit on, and so got it. That's it. Thank you.
Andy?
Just one quick question. It looks like there's a proposed greenway that might run just along that property. Will there be access, or you're planning to
Yeah.
make sure that there's access? Yeah.
Yeah, that has to be included as part of the development plan
Okay.
process because that is essentially the western boundary of that site.
Right, okay.
And sitting here today, I can't tell you if it's located on the east side of the creek or the west side of the creek. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all.
Good.
Thank you.
So has the staff seen how these access roads will go through the other, or the connected parcel? I mean, with us, we can't see how these roads are going to work. We know that the private road's not there. So have you seen something that shows you how this is going to work, or do you not need to see that at this time?
We don't actually need to see that at this time for this rezoning, because this 6-acre parcel, they have not submitted something that shows that yet, and it's not required right now. And as Mr. Barron said, the other parcel, I think, has submitted a development plan, but that's because that rezoning has already been approved. But they will be, if this is approved, that's when they'll submit a development plan that shows the entire layout, which will be reviewed by staff.
Okay, so if we approve this, even though we can't see the access points, you would stop it if this isn't worked out? Because, it was said earlier that there's just the verbal commitment, and while that's not our particular business, it is the business of the town for these roads to go
Yeah.
through here. So you'll be able to stop it even though we approve it?
Right, the LDO's requirements will be met, and they also have a zoning condition that says all lots will access either Mills Road or Green Level through public streets. So even if for some reason they decided at the last minute, well, we want to access Emery Gale Lane, they'd be required to upgrade Emery Gale Lane to a public street. So I think that covers the LDO does require, being that detached dwellings all have access via public streets, and that will be enforced and worked out at the development plan stage.
Okay, that's good. It's just one of those things, a lot of times we don't see things
Right.
that we know that you will see later, but that's kind of a big one for this one, is the access. And then, will there be something physically blocking people from using the private roads, so that they won't be able to, because, if I lived there, I'd sure try to go down that private road, most likely, unless it was blocked.
Yeah, I think the town's typical process is they'll show that there's a future road extension. There will be a stub. It won't be constructed all the way to the property line. I think it
So
will
you'll stop
like
it and it'll
5
be
feet
a-
short. Yep.
Okay,
There-
gotcha.
And the dedication of that public street will occur at that time, so that when future development happens, the town has the legal ability to extend through.
Okay, perfect. I don't have any additional questions. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you all.
If there is no further discussion, would someone like to make a motion for 21 REZ 19 Estes Residential?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move that the board find case number 21 REZ 19 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report, presentation, and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. Second? You second? Thank you, John. Well, since you made the motion, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, the fact that this is a parcel that is associated with a previous rezoning application that was approved, and that I think the use is consistent, and we went from 1.6 units per acre to 2.5 units per acre, so the density, I think, is more in line with the green level special planning area. So I think that the use and density are appropriate, and I think that the conditions that are provided make sense, especially given the concerns around access to Mills Road. So that's the reason why I made the motion.
Excellent. John?
Yeah, I agree with that. We talked extensively with the last development about the character of this area and the plan, and this seems to be consistent as well. And I appreciate the forethought with the conditions regarding access and how that works through with the larger plan to meet the near-term needs and the long-term needs.
Excellent. Mike, comments?
No further comments.
Okay, Don?
I'd just like to add, I appreciate staff combining the two areas and giving us stats for both. It was good to hear that.
Yeah, very helpful.
Great job.
Yeah, it seems like it's consistent in terms of the size, the density, and the fact that it is connected to that other piece of property, that it should all be treated more or less together. So it makes sense to me that it'd be consistent with the plan.
Yeah, I had no further comments. I agree with the sentiment expressed thus far.
Agreed. No further comments.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, having no further comments, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion that's been put forward, and we will start down with Andy.
Aye.
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 And I also vote aye. It passed unanimous. There is no additional old or new business that I'm aware of, right? And having said that, that would be the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you for everyone for attending and helping in all the presentations tonight. So meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.
Oh.